Thank you for watching my review and final thoughts of Wayfarers of the South Tigris, a game in which we explore the waterways, map the lands, and chart the stars in ancient Baghdad. But first, let's start off with an overview of the game itself. Wayfarers of the South Tigris, a 2022 design by Sam McDonald and Shem Phillips, with art by the Miko. It currently has a weight of 3.78 out of 5 on Board Game Geek, also with a gameplay time of average between 60 to 90 minutes. So before we actually start the review, I'd like to give you a little overview of this channel, where I'm coming from my perspective. So take a look. Why Zaccoon Games? Well, I started this channel to help me grow as a player and as a hobby designer. Up until now, I've always been a cult of the new. Play a game once, check out what new mechanisms it might have or twists on old ideas and themes, and then move on. And so, but now I stream one game a month, and I play about 8 to 9 times, and it makes me slow down. It forces me to really examine the finer points of a game's design. And so then afterwards, at the end of the month, I'll give my little review and final thoughts. But, my love of games started when I was a little boy and was sitting on my mom's lap as her and my dad were playing cards. Alrighty, I think he's starting to ramble on there. Anyway, you know what? I'd like to start off by being upfront with you guys. Wayfarers is a great game. Go buy it. Wait, where are you going? Don't leave yet. Not yet. No. Like and subscribe. Okay. Well, for those who stayed around, let's go over some of the basic points of the game, and then I'll get into some more rambling thoughts about it. So let's start with gameplay. There are so many choices in this game. I love it. There's so many levers that are interconnected, and I want to do this, but I need to do that first, or if I do this, I'll get an extra bonus, and I can do that then after this. Oh, I just love it. So many times I think, okay, I'm going to do this. Or you could do this. Or did you think about this? I love it. So many just juicy choices to make during this game. So let's talk about the components. Now understand, living in Ecuador, it's so hard for me to bring a big box game, or there's no mail system. I can't get anything delivered here. Or it's very expensive and crazy. So I have to play on TTS, Tabletop Simulator. But the artwork is gorgeous. Just take a look at this example here, like the tableau you can build. Oh, it's amazing. And but knowing Garphill Games, they've been very lavish production, I'll say, very quality production. So I think you'll be fine on components. Now theme. Let's talk about the theme. We're in ancient, exploring ancient Baghdad or the surroundings as you go forth. And really, you know what? The theme is there if you want it. I'll give you an example. Look at this card right here, the translator. Now, when you're playing the game, there's 2 ways you can, process this card and how you're looking at it. I feel like the time has come where I must report back to Baghdad all the wondrous things that we've encountered on this journey. Like just today, we uncovered this ancient manuscript. I would like to include that in my findings. I'm sure if they saw that, they would be doubly impressed. But what to do? I don't there was this strange man I met back at the oasis. He claimed that there wasn't a language on earth that he did not understand. I bet if I offered him probably 2 silver, I bet I can employ his services to help me translate this document. I can't do a double journal action unless I get another black influence. I don't know. I'll go buy that guy for $2 who gives me when I take a rest action. Yeah. Unfortunately, I tend to be on the latter. I really enjoy, like, when I first get the game, or a game, I should say, what the theme is like, oh, I really like this. But then I quickly devolve into the abstraction of everything. So, but it's there if you want it, and I did appreciate it. Um, Setup once again. I'm on Tabletop Simulator, so couldn't be any easier. Just press a couple buttons, but I imagine there's a little bit of a setup. I mean, you got the 5 decks, you got the reversible boards for the journal track, and then a bunch of tiles on that, and um, I imagine it's not insignificant. But to me, it doesn't seem crazy like some other games I've played in the past, and to me, it seems worth it. Okay, let's go look at rules. Now the rules, there's a lot of little things in the rule book, but I found it very, very thorough, very enjoyable to read and understandable. And just a nitpick, I was looking for one symbol that I couldn't find in the rule book, but it really is kind of like described on what it does, but it doesn't show it. That's a super nitpick, but really, I think the rules are excellent. And any kind of rules questions, I would ask on the Garphill Discord or on the Board Game Geek page, and very quick to respond, very friendly, and ultimately, it usually ended up whatever I was looking for was referenced in the rule book. So it's there, but it's a little bit there's a lot to learn for this game. Length. Now, on Board Game Geek, it says 60 minutes to 60 to 90 minutes. I played much longer. Of course, Tabletop Simulator is slower, and I'm kind of narrating everything on top of that. So I was averaging about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but take that into account of the other circumstances that makes it go longer for my playthroughs. But I think that 60 to 90 minutes is probably about right. And before I did this August solo plays of Wayfarers, I did play it multiplayer a couple months back, and actually I don't think it adds too much length to it, because solo, every time I'm thinking of my turn on stream and it's slowing me down. But in multiplayer, when I played, I was thinking of my turn, so actually when it got back to me, it went real quick. So I feel like that time frame is very accurate, that 60 to 90 minutes. And so that's up to some of the basics. Let's just go over the general thoughts I have now. Let's go over some of the positives I found in this design. The first one I really enjoyed was the fact that the workers are not yours individually or an opponent's or something like that. I mean, they are yours when they're in your supply, but they're not doing you anything good there. So when you actually place them onto the board, they basically become available for anyone to take an action to grab those and use them for themselves. So really I like the aspect of communal workers temporarily being yours. My second positive is some of the balancing issues that I saw, not issues, but the way they handled balancing issues. Because one strategy is to fast track the journaling track, get to the rush to the end. But then they had the neat little thing that they did where if you go up the track or at the very bottom of the track, you can actually skip some spots, which is actually enabling that fast tracking. But when you do that, you skip over, at least twice, you skip over the spots that have the powerful green worker you would get for being there first. So just little tweaks like that I found, it's like that's just a great balancing act that they put into this game. My third positive is about the AI. Of course, this is based on the solo plays, but it really does feel like you're playing it against an opponent. And for example, let me show you the scores based on the 9 games. Our average is, so you'll see there, it's basically 1 point difference. It's just, it was so tight. Once I think I won by 13, she won by 15, but most of them were single digits. One game was 2 point difference, and it was fantastic. You might have noticed the asterisk next to the score there. I'm going to explain that in the next section in just a little bit more why I put that there. The fourth positive point is with the C cards. It's only the C cards, but on the sides they have little links, I'd say, where if you place a card that links up with the previous card in certain locations, you get bonuses like provisions, coins, or influence, different things. And man, I just love that little. Anytime you could really match up, one or two, it's just like I could feel my dopamine levels rising, and I just loved it. And as a hobby designer, I had a baseball game that I was thinking about making that would use something similar. So I was happy to see that here and how well it was implemented, and just the feelings of joy as you connect to these cards. And so excellent with the connection links on the C cards. My fifth positive is the aspect of placing influence on certain spots. Now, I've actually seen many reviews of Wayfarers, and one thing I saw was like maybe the influence was a little fiddly for what you get out of it, but personally, I enjoyed it. Um, you know, it really did. Again, you're playing against an opponent. And I'm talking about solo now, but it's just like sometimes she would do her action, blah blah blah, and then her action would lead to a card I had an influence on, and I'd just be like, yes, you just get a silver or a provision. It's not game breaking, but it was very satisfying. And the other way, it was frustrating, but in a good sense, is when you feel like, for example, I'll show this one where, let's say you want to go get a worker, and you're thinking about the spot. Okay, I'll go to get this worker. I'll place my worker here. Go get this, and then you realize her influence is there, and so then you got this dilemma. It's just like, well, do I just pay her, a silver or a provision to do it, or not? And paying her isn't the worst thing, and really in the long run, this will help us. So help me, if you pay that wretched woman 1 silver, I'll kill you. Fortunately, I agree with this guy. I hated paying her, but it's just an excellent another little tweak to the game that just added to it. So for me personally, the influence was a positive. Albeit, I'll talk about it a little bit later on my negative aspect. And the sixth and last thing that I'll mention here is the scoring app. Well, I really appreciate it. There's a lot to add up at the end, and you can see here they have a scoring app for all their games, and it walks you step by step, and you can put in. It just makes it so much simpler, and I really appreciated the app. So moving on. Now, this isn't the negatives. This is more like didn't hate it, didn't love it. But my first one is the opening move started to feel a little bit samey. Like if I didn't roll a 1 that had a camel, I couldn't buy the land card. So, okay, well, I'm going to spend my blue influence to buy a C card. Or if there was no great workers to be had, there's like 3 or 4 choices, but 9 times in 1 month, I started feeling like, okay, well, it's the same thing. That being said, like 1 or 2 turns after that, it just opened wide up. And so that's just my personal feeling. I just, maybe because I played it so many times in a condensed period. The second thing that I didn't really appreciate so much was the fact of where you place the space cards when you buy them. Really didn't matter. As long as you had an open space to place them, it didn't matter where you put them. And so like when I was streaming, just for streaming purposes, I'd put everything on the right so I could have all my supplies on the left. But I'd like to see, in a game that had so many choices, I was surprised that wasn't one of them where the placement mattered. So perhaps in an expansion, they'll do something with that. And so lack of choices when placing your space cards disappointed me a little bit. The third point is the Vista cards have these ongoing effects where, like, if you buy a card or an upgrade tile that has a certain symbol, it'll give you a benefit. But the thing is, it's easy to forget. At least for me, I got the memory of a gnat. But a couple times where it's just like, I was doing things like, well, if I bought this, and it's just like, oh, but then I'll be short for this next time. And here, a couple turns later, I'll look and be like, oh, it was right there. And so I could have used it, but I forgot because it's just sitting there. So I don't know what the solution to that is. I have a game that I'm working on that has that in spades. And so I don't know what the solution is. But the cards themselves are cool. It's a great thing. It's just easy to forget. And speaking of forgetting, that takes me down to the fourth point here. You remember the asterisk I showed next to the scoring thing? That's because it's easy. Again, I don't have a great memory. There's so many little things you need to remember that you can sometimes forget. And it's like, oh wait, he should have had this, or like the opponent should have had that, and I forgot to give it to him or do this. And it's just like, and so I felt like sometimes I had asterisks next to some of my games. I think I maybe had one super clean game. Otherwise, there's always a little thing. I don't feel like it would have made much of a difference, but it's kind of frustrating when you realize, oh, I forgot to do this. And that's just because of the nature of these medium heavy games. There's so many things to keep track of. So it's just easy to forget certain little rules. My fifth thing is I'd like to see more, I don't want to say outrageous abilities, really unique ones, because a lot of times there are benefits where you buy a card, you'll get a coin. Another one, you buy a card, oh, you get a worker back. Buy a card, you get this and that. A lot of variations on the same one, which is great for balance, and they all have their place. But like, there was one card I actually didn't see until, I'm gonna say like the fifth or sixth game, and it had the double telescopes where you can actually kind of dive into the space cards. And man, I was like a kid in a candy store when that popped up. I was using it even when I probably shouldn't have, but I just wanted to play with this new toy that really did something different than everything else. And there's only one of those in the entire deck. In fact, it's actually a promo card that's part of the mod on Tabletop Simulator. So I'd like to see more like that. And I'm sure with expansions and everything, we will. But definitely would like to see a little bit more different abilities. And the last one is that during the game, you really don't know if you're winning or losing. I mean, you could stop and take score. I mean, it would just take forever. For the most part, you don't know if you're winning or losing. And I don't know how I feel about that, actually, because I think I don't like that. But at the same time, there was a couple cool moments during like the reveal. It's like, well, I think I got her beat this time pretty good. And then all of a sudden I realize as you're scoring up, she's got 20 space cards worth 60 points. And it's like, oh my goodness. And so the reveal, I never was 100% sure on the reveal. Maybe the last game out of 9, I felt pretty confident. But for the most part, it's like I did not know going into the score reveal if I was winning or losing. And so that's back and forth depending on how you want it. I do like knowing how I'm doing, but it did lead to some pretty cool moments in Revelation. So that's take it however you want, but you don't know really how well you're doing in the game. Now on to my negatives. And like, as I started off, this is a great game. There's not many. One is really just, I feel this game would really, if you have AP problems, analysis paralysis, I think this game could really take a while for you or on your turn. So as an example, going back to placing that influence, I mentioned as a positive because it's pretty cool. But boy, you could really think about that to try to maximize, like, where is my opponent going to go? Even with the AI, it's like, okay, they're more likely to do this and go here. And I just had to stop that. I mean, I just had to make just quick gut decisions. And a couple times I even realized after, just like, man, if I even thought about this for a little bit more, I could have placed it in a better spot. But it's just, there's so many good decisions. And even while I was streaming, sometimes I would stop and be like, look, I think when I was diving into like the land or sea cards, you reveal 3, you have the option to reveal 3 and choose 1. And I'd stop and say, look, all 3 of these are good for different reasons. And it's just like, so if you really have problems with AP, you might find it here. in this game. And last negative, and I don't even know if I'd call this mine, it's just from reading on the forums and stuff, it was been said quite a few times that that the markets, like the townsfolk markets or the land sea markets, the four cards you can choose from, could get stale, maybe stuck because nothing's really attractive to either player. Now in the solo one, your opponent, she's going to cycle through cards basically randomly. But I felt like the cycling was pretty good. I did notice sometimes like the townsfolk cards, you know, if they didn't have any abilities I was really particularly interested in, I just kind of stopped looking up there or making that one of my options. And so I can see that. And so hopefully that's something addressed in the expansions, maybe refreshing the market somehow by abilities or something like that. But that's, I really didn't find it in the solo play so much, just a little bit, but I can see how that would be a little bit stagnant in a two-player game in particular. So that's some of my ramblings on Wayfarers. So to sum it up, obviously I'm very positive on this. This is a great game, and I highly recommend it. I've played Hadrian's Wall before, but as far as the Kingdoms game series, this is the first one I played, and I can't wait to dive into some more. Circadian Light really attracts me as a theme, the Viscount series. There's so much. I'm so excited to go down this Garphill rabbit hole. But anyway, highly recommend. Thanks for watching. Join me on Twitch or follow this on YouTube as I keep on doing these monthly deep dives into games. And so appreciate the view. Take care and have a good day.